Getting out of H.E.L.L, and it has to do with an acronym, right, that will stand for Heart, Engagement, Leadership, and Laughter. And these are like the main topics I will be covering today. I love my sessions. Thank you, Ahmed, for that. Thank you, Anna. And I like my sessions to be really interactive. As Ron was saying, I am a Latin American girl, so I have all this Latin flavor with me. And I really like to make my presentations engaging, extremely participating. So I will be asking you guys to be with me, to bear with me, to share ideas in the chat, to share comments, to share reflections, everything you want. This is an open space for learning. I am very proud to be here today. I'm very happy to be sharing these minutes with you. And again, I always consider my sessions to be a space for us teachers to experience in a way what we'd like to transfer into the classroom. That's why I will be asking you to do exercise with me, to do activities with me. And these are the activities that you will be taking away as practical resources, hands-on activities, resources, strategies, so that you can take into your classes right away. So there will be some academic frameworks, let's say, to what I will be sharing, but most of this presentation is focused on hands-on activities. So welcome, everybody. Let's get started, because it's high time that we really get out of H.E.L.L, right? So again, remember, H.E.L.L is an acronym that will stand for Heart. This is focusing on the emotional aspects of teaching. Then we'll move into engagement. This, for me, it's one of my passions as a teacher trainer. I've been investigating a lot about what engagement is really about. We'll focus on the concept of agency in the classroom. And then we'll move into the first L, that is leadership, because we teachers are leaders in everything we do. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into the concepts of leadership, and we'll try to embrace our students as leaders in their own lives, right? And creating those lifelong learning skills that are necessary for them to really become leaders in everything they do. And the last L stands for laughter. So this will be reconnecting to joy in our classes, all right? So again, welcome everybody, and let's get started with, of course, one of my passions. As you know, I am a specialist in social and emotional learning. I have been working with many institutions in Latin America, developing programs that help both teachers and students, and in fact, the whole community, the whole schools community, to develop aspects of social and emotional learning, that is, develop self-awareness, self-regulation, and in the interpersonal skills, focusing on social awareness, everything that has to do with embracing diversity, with empathy, relationship building, that is also within the umbrella of the social skills. And last but not least, the area that we develop in social and emotional learning, that is H.E.L.L, social emotional learning worldwide, is decision-making, responsible decision-making, right? So this part of the presentation focuses on the importance of well-being in our classrooms. It focuses on the importance of creating safe environments for our students to learn, right? So first, I would like to share a little bit of research about these aspects of emotional development, of effective learning in our classes. And what we know from research is that learning can be facilitated or hindered but the social and emotional experiences of the learner and us, teachers. So our emotional connection with our students is extremely important in improving even their academic results. Mary Modino Young and Damasio, some of my favorite authors, after a very long and extensive research, concluded precisely that we really need to help our students with their innate capacities for social connections, right? We humans need social and emotional connections for learning and to develop higher order cognition and to achieve better academic results. But most importantly, to help our students learn for life, to help our students not only learn English in our classes, but also develop those life capacities that they will need when they leave school, to live out there in the world. So the social and emotional capacities are related to becoming better friends, better husbands, better wives, better citizens, contributing to a world that is, a little bit more driven by empathy, by collaboration, by helping each other, by solidarity. All those core human values are at the center of human learning and social and emotional development. And precisely, Mary Modino Young and Damasio said that, of course, it is really very important to include and consider emotions in our classes, because they are the ones that guide attention during learning. They are the ones that help us retrieve information from our memory, assist in information decoding, and effectively manage those social interactions that are at the core of what we do as teachers. So I don't want to go or get carried away in this topic, because this is my real passion as a teacher trainer. But we need to understand that helping our students decode their emotions, embracing their emotions, recognizing them, is crucial for social life, is crucial for their development as humans. And we teachers have a huge opportunity to help them develop these skills while we teach the language, or to learn the language through the development of these life skills. So what I have to do here is to share with you a short video about the connection between emotions and the brain. So let's watch it together.
When we hear the word emotion, most of us think of love, hate, happiness, or fear. Those strong feelings we experience throughout life. Our emotions are the driving force behind many of our behaviors, helpful and unhelpful. Just where do our emotions come from? Our brain is wired to look for threats or rewards. If one is detected, the feeling region of the brain alerts us through the release of chemical messages. Emotions are the effect of these chemical messages traveling from our brain through the body. When our brain detects a potential threat, our brain releases the stress hormones adrenaline and cortisol, which prepare us for a fight or flight response. When we detect or experience something rewarding, such as someone doing something nice for you, our brain releases dopamine, oxytocin, or serotonin. These are the chemicals that make us feel good and motivate us to continue on the task or behavior. In these instances, the feeling region of the brain kicks in before the thinking part. Sometimes the reactions of the feeling brain are so strong that it dominates our behaviors and we're unable to think rationally in the moment. Our emotions hijack our brain. While many of our emotional responses happen subconsciously, our thinking can influence our emotions, and sometimes this can be unhelpful. Just thinking about something threatening can trigger an emotional response. This is where we can manage our emotions with conscious thinking. Our emotions play a powerful role in the way we experience the world. Understanding and regulating our emotions through our thoughts and behaviors can help us take greater control of our brain and achieve our goals.
So a short video on the connection between the brain and emotions, right? And this has a huge impact in terms of our life as educators. So I am going to offer you now, my dear teachers from around the world, a minute to reflect. I always like to include in my presentations a reflection minute. I call it a reflection minute because we started with some ideas. I shared some conclusions from research. We watched the video together. I introduced a little bit the importance of emotions, right, in our classes. But now I have a reflection minute for you. I am going to share a couple of questions right now on the screen. And the idea is this is your time. So this is your time to take down notes, right, to grab your pen and paper, to think about your own practice. I really want to include these reflection minutes in my presentations because I always think that apart from learning in these environments, this is a very good time to reflect on our own practice. And probably our own practice, I mean, my practice as an English teacher here in Argentina and in Latin America might be a little bit different from your practice in your different countries. But let's reflect together about these questions. How do we deal as teachers with emotions and experiences such as fear, anxiety, trauma, worry in our classes? How do we create authentic, brave spaces where students can definitely express, recognize their emotions and experiences? And the last powerful question here is, do we execute strategies related to teacher well-being? Teacher well-being is a huge topic nowadays. I've been working on teacher well-being for I don't know how many years now, but after pandemic, this has become very explicit, very recognized worldwide in terms of a priority in education, right? So I will give you 1 minute for you to think about some ideas answering these 3 powerful questions. You can share maybe something in the chat, right? And this is your reflection minute, my dear student, my dear teachers and students. There, minutes in the air for you right away. So take your own notes. Think about the input I've shared in these very first minutes of our presentation. Think about your practices. And you might use these questions as a guidance, right? This is powerful question. Absolutely, Asma. Yeah. Journaling, writing, drawing, art, movement, all those are different expressions that might help us regulate us, and as students might help them absolutely regulate their emotions. And free writing, it's a great tool. I love that you bring it up. Thank you so much. Journaling, right? Mind mapping, absolutely. Mind mapping, it's like metacognition exercise, but it has a lot to do with our emotions because we prioritize information based on our stories, on our feelings, on our emotional dimension. So I do agree, Ron, that mind mapping is definitely a great tool. Share my thoughts with a friend, absolutely. Great. Okay, listening to podcasts, storytelling, yeah, many different resources. Okay, our minute is off. And now I would like to share our first tool of the day, right? I will share with you this activity, our first activity that I call a calm preserver. Probably you are familiar with the picture I'm sharing with you. This is a life preserver, right? We've all seen one in swimming pools, at the seaside, on the beach, wherever we are, right? So we are going to create our own, but why not maybe think about a life preserver? Okay, it's a calm preserver. but it's also a way to, bring well-being into our life maps and our life designs, right? So the calm preserver, my dear teachers, is an activity that we'll do together to identify stressors in our life and to think about strategies that we might already have, right, to deal with these stressors. So this is what you will have to do. I will ask you to draw with me. So you need to have a piece of paper with you. I will need you to draw with me a sort of, let's say, this is not an art class. I am no art teacher, trust me. But let's draw together something like a calm preserver. So it might look like this, right? With an inner circle and an outer circle. Are you drawing with me? Type a big yes in the chat if you're ready to do this activity with me. Yes? Yeah, great. That sounds great. All right, so we will create our calm preserver as teachers. And then I will give you some extra activities so that you can enrich this with your students in your classrooms, okay? All right, so this is the thing. Inside, within this inner circle, I want you to write down 3 stressors that you identify in your life as a teacher. So for example, stressor number 1 might be grading. Stressor number 2 might be parent meetings. Stressor number 3 might be planning or dealing with anxiety in our classrooms or dealing with conflict, yes, discipline problems, all those realities that we all share as teachers. So I need you to write in the inner circle 3 stressors, or the most important, because we have a lot of stressors as teachers, right? Stressors are those triggers of stress in your lives as teachers, okay? So I want you to identify 3 of those stressors in the inner circle, okay? And then we go into step number 2. So whenever you are ready, you will type ready in the chat so that I know that you finished with this first step. And then we'll move forward into the second one. Great. We're only focusing on 3, right? I know we have a very long list of stressors in our lives as teachers. Let's focus, just as an example, on the most important 3. And then, of course, this is an exercise that is very much related to emotional regulation. One of the most important aspects of emotional regulation is not only to recognize that we are feeling stressed, but also to identify the triggers of that level of stress, that is the stressors. So we are working now on the first stage, step number 1 for emotional regulation, okay? Step number 2 is going to be for each of the stressors in the outer ring. I want you to write one thing that you can do to feel less stressed about this point, about this person, about this activity, about this thing that makes you feel a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit under pressure. What can you do so as to lower this level of stress? Or what are you doing to decrease the level of stress? We are focusing now on tools that you already have. I'm not here to give you a recipe about anything, right? We already have resources. So for each of the stressors, I want you to think of a strategy, a tool that you already have so as to lower that level of stress. For example, if it is, I don't know, you have to do a lot of planning, maybe time management would be something that might help reduce that level of stress, so that if you organize your timing differently, probably you wouldn't have to do so much planning at the same time, for instance, okay? So think and work with me on the outer ring of the calm preserver so that you can identify some tools. We were mentioning some of the strategies that in general we use to regulate our emotions. Remember previously in the chat, you mentioned music, you mentioned art, you mentioned this idea, for example, Ahmed was mentioning this idea of creating awareness, right? And nurturing spaces where we teachers can talk about this, right? And can help each other out. Then you can send me emails and I have like a very long list of different activities that you can do. But these 2 steps that we've done together with our calm preserver are 2 steps for emotional regulation. So we have identified stressors in our life, and you have already thought about different strategies that you could apply to lower those levels of stress, okay? So this is a moment, my dear teachers, where you can take a picture if you want of the presentation, or then you can send me an email and I will be happy to share my presentation. Here you have the different steps to do it with your students. The thing that I suggest to use the calm preserver with students, because it's really important for them to also identify, what are those things that make them feel nervous or anxious or frustrated, whatever emotion you want to work with. And here you've got the steps. And what I've done with students, and it's been a great experience, is the only condition for their calm preservers is that they cannot use words. They only have to use images, they have to create art, So students have come up with great representations, great visual representations of their calm preservers, of those stressors, things that worry them, things that make them feel under a lot of pressure, and also very beautiful things related to what you can do, to deal with those emotions. So for example, one of the students shared that he likes writing rap music, so he shared one of those pieces with us. There was another student that likes painting, so she brought one of her paintings to the class, and we had all these visual calm preservers on the walls so that they have always reminders that there are things we can do to deal with our emotions in better ways. Because as we already saw, emotions can hinder the learning process, or they can be great propellers of knowledge and of emotional security. So this, my dear teachers, is activity number 1, the calm preserver. Did you like it? How did you like it? Send me a comment in the chat, because we are moving on now into engagement and agency. Yes? So you can do it with your students. You might try it, okay? And remember to have your visual representations and leave them on the walls of your classrooms, right? Okay, I am moving now into E. Remember that we are moving from H to E now, engagement. And for engagement, I would like to focus on a topic I love, that is agency, okay? Agency is all about centricity. Students and the whole community should now be at the center of our classes. Agency is about offering our students voice and choice, right? Personalization. We are having great digital tools to help us with this personalization. For example, here in Latin America, it's really very common to have classes with, I would say, between 30 to 35 students average in one class. So of course, personalization and voice and choice becomes quite limited when we have such a high number of students. But there are always ways to give and to create some space and some room for these things to happen, right? Voice and choice, maybe you will not offer 1,000 options, but you can offer 2 options. Would you like to learn passive voice through a video so that we flip the class a little bit and students can watch a tutorial video on passive voice before coming to class, so that when they come to class, they focus on using the language. That is what we really want them to do. Or maybe you would like me to send you a short video or an audio about this next topic we are going to see. What's your choice? It is a limited choice, but it's still a choice. And this is extremely important, coming back to the social-emotional area. This is extremely important for our students to feel heard, to feel seen, to understand that we care about what they have to say, and that it's extremely important that they become involved. So if we really want to go for engagement, we need to think about different strategies to involve them through agency in their own learning process, right? We always need to focus, of course, in meaningful, deep learning, learning for life, transferring English into things that they will do in their lives. For us English teachers, it's really very easy because in a global world, we are living in an absolutely globalized world. They will need English for work, they will need English for traveling, they will need English all the time, right? So it's quite easy for us English teachers. And of course, autonomy and this sense of students becoming engaged from their personal commitments, from accountability points of view, and developing their own autonomy as learners. So agency is described, let's say, through all these drivers I've just shared. And I think it's really important to consider more opportunities where we transfer the power of a class into the hands of our students. And when we do that, it might be a little bit chaotic at the beginning, but then there are great results because students really become engaged in the process, and they are at the center, right, of what we do. So let's move into the first L of our H.E.L.L. model, that is precisely leadership, right? This sense, first of all, I want to mention that we teachers are leaders. Remember that the definition, for example, Daniel Goleman definition about leaders has to do with this idea of leader is that person that has an impact on someone else's development. So we teachers do that all the time, right? So from that perspective, we need to focus on teachers as leaders. But on the second hand, and this is more oriented or focused on student side of development of the language, there are many examples of youth leadership that we can use with our students. 1,000 inspirational models of very young learners, of people that are very young and are definitely changing the world. Let me share one example about this. This is Amanda Gorman. Amanda Gorman is a Black poet. She has been doing poetry for many, many, many years now. She's a great example of youth leadership, and she's a great example of powerful messages that our students might have within themselves. So my point here is, now we'll listen to just a part of one of her poems. She became very famous in the United States and in the world now. She's an ambassador for the United Nations, and she's got a very powerful message to share with the world. What I'm trying to say, my dear teachers, is that there are Amanda Gormans, there are these inspirational messages and these inspirational powers within all of our students. So what a great opportunity we teachers have to ignite and help our students recognize this leadership that lives already within themselves. Let me just go into the part of the video and this example. of Amanda Gorman that I would like to share with you. Okay? Just a little bit of her message.
Never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the west. We will rise from the wind-swept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
So there is always light if we are brave enough to see it, if we are brave enough to live it. Amanda Gorman is a great example of leadership, of youth leadership. There are many, many, many others. And there are these possibilities of leadership and positive leadership in all of our students. So what a great capacity for us teachers to help them discover, right? Those areas of their lives that might contribute to a better world. Okay, my dear teachers, here I have another activity that is related precisely to leadership, to youth leadership. And this is a goal board. You know that it's very important for us to know our goals because they are part of who we are. So this is an activity for students. Each of them will create a picture, a collage, a dancing move, a dance that they will share with us that represents the goal that they have for themselves. So they can pick a big goal, like a life dream, or they want to go for something smaller, right? The idea is to identify goals, to identify those aspects that move our students, that engage them, that make them feel alive, those aspects of their life that they feel passionate about and that they want to contribute more, right? So it could be a big thing or a small thing. The only rule again is they have to represent it through art, okay? They cannot use any words. Same as with the life preserver. Second step of the goal boards, they need to write a sample if-then plan on the board using the following format. My goal is, right? Name of the goal. Now, yes, they have to use, writing, and they can do it in writing. If or when I do this, something will happen related to achieving this goal. So the goal board is a great way for our students to identify that if they want to realize their dreams, they will need a plan, right? And that plan is made of different actions. So it will help them also organize themselves in these and engage in these metacognition exercises that might help them identify their passions, identify what they want to achieve in life, maybe a life dream, and plan it, right? And think into smaller parts and smaller actions that will help them realize this objective and this dream. So the goal board really helps them with that. And these are the two steps. The first step is representing their goal in some format of art. And the second one is writing the if-then plan. When I do this, if I do this, something will change and I will move forward into achieving this goal, okay? So this is another great activity. And another one, I know maybe I am bombarding you with a lot of activities, but I really want to leave this session with some practical ideas that you can use with your students. This is a whole activity that is divided into two different parts, and it's very much about igniting their leadership. Igniting learning cards is about you as a teacher will design and craft a very good question. In this case, for example, the question I came up with is, how do we help each other learn better? So students will write one post-it. In one post-it, they will answer and they will provide an idea for this question, okay? Maybe we learn better by getting together, by teaching each other, whatever idea they come with. And then in groups, they need to classify those ideas into different categories, right? So this is, again, metacognition. There is a lot of emotions going on because the point is in categorizing ideas. Maybe it's about collaboration and teamwork. Maybe it's about creating different spaces for learning. All those will be great ideas that would answer the original question. How do we help each other learn better? And the second step, you can take a picture if you want of the screen right now so that you have the two steps. The second step is about engagement and accountability, because each of them will have to write an action on the same post-its. And this is going to be their commitment to do something about that idea. That is to take that idea into action. So it's moving from the world of ideas into the world of action, right? So we have the two different steps with the igniting learning cards and with the my next step activity that follows up with that. And then we are coming back to our last moment today, that is laughter. Again, it's high time that we bring joy back into our classes, because we teachers do a lot of things, right? Maybe you will feel identified with this video.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
Remember this movie?
I would like to buy a hamburger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
First time I saw this
No,
video, it
Let's
was
break
like
it down.
I saw myself in it.
I would
Would.
would
Weird.
would
Weird.
would
Would.
like to
Toi.
to
Toi.
to
Toi.
buy
B.
buy
B.
buy
B. B.
a
A.
hamburger
Hamburger.
hamburger
Hamburger.
hamburger
Hamburger.
ham
M.
burger.
Burger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
It's not damburger, hamburger.
I'm not saying dimburger. I said I would like to
Yes.
buy a hamburger.
I would like to
Oh
buy
my
a hamburger.
gosh.
I would like to buy the hamburger.
I've had so many of these
Hamburger.
students.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
Maybe we should stop.
We don't quit. We do
We
not
don't quit,
Again,
he says.
again.
So he's very much within the growth mindset, because we say we don't quit, we keep on trying, right? So we teachers have to deal with all these kind of situations. We are under a lot of pressure. It's really We have chosen a very rewarding profession, but it's really, really demanding, okay? So Stephen Krashen said it many years ago, we need to create low anxiety learning environments. We need to foster emotional security. And in many cases, we need to help ourselves and our students relax so that they can also learn better, right? So remember, my dear teachers, that we can also be agents of joy in our classes through creating different activities and bringing humor back into our classes. All right, so before we finish, I would like to go and jump into these. That is one of my favorite quotes by Sir Ken Robinson. He said that the gardener does not make a flower grow. The job of a gardener is to create the optimal conditions for growth. And I like to think of us teachers as gardeners in our students' lives, creating those optimal conditions for their lives to flourish in a way. And coming back again to Amanda Gorman, there is always light if we are only brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be that light. So thank you so much, my dear teachers. This is now the time for questions, for reflections. I would love to read you in the chat if you have any questions, anything you'd like to share. And thank you so much, Educast, for inviting me to this great Congress. And thank you to all of you that are taking the time to become better professionals and better teachers for this world. This world needs a lot of very good teachers. So that's what we should be doing. Thank you so much. And thank you, Ron, for moderating.
Thank you, Monica. That was wonderful. And, you know, I always know you're going to do some activities or something. So I was looking forward to.
You know me already.
Yeah. I was like, I wonder what she's going to do today. You know, I really liked it because I wrote down 3 things that distressed me. And that was, of course, time management, planning, and commuting.